Okay, and the last example is the corner of this soap bar. I call this the sacrificial surfaces because if you look at the picture on the right, you have the blue surfaces that really aren't surfaces pertaining to the model, but they help you model it up to where you can maintain your design intent and maintain the geometry that you're looking for, such as draft angles and where you're going to create your parting lines and, how those surfaces and edges are going to come off, at different times. Okay. So let me actually come back, or I have a starter file for this as well, and I'll show you how we're going to create, that corner of that soap bar here. So we'll go File, Open, Soap Corner, Open. Okay, and this is a file that's already been created. You can see that it was, there's the file here. So I'm going to utilize the rollback bar. I'm just going to go up in the design tree so you can see how this thing was created. I'm going to turn on the sketches so you can see those. And in this case, the part was kind of made, almost in wireframe before it was actually created, right? And this is the type of design technique that you're going to use, based on, if you just have a drawing or a sketch that comes from, some type of industrial design type of a department or things of that nature. They know the overall size that they need. They know the overall shape that they need. And it's up to you to make it happen. And a lot of times you can sketch this type of a wire frame to try to capture the design intent or the design techniques here. Okay, so with this one here, the way that they do it is they create these blue sacrificial surfaces first. Okay, and if you look at these edges, this is the surface loft. The first sketch that they use in the loft is this one right here, over on the left-hand side. Okay, and if you click that line, you can see that they maintained a tangency, okay, for their design intent off of that edge. So that's the first line, or that's the first sketch in the profile. The second sketch in the profile is over here on the right-hand side. Again, if I click that line, you can see that they maintained a tangency to the top edge of the soap bar there. So then what they did is they lofted, giving this sketch here as a guide curve. And if you look at sketch 3, okay, it looks like they used the outer ring sketch, but what they actually did is, if I click this line for you here, they created a new sketch on top of the sketch that they had already created as the layout sketch. Okay, and if you look at these flag relations, it might be a little bit hard on your screen to see them, but that's actually called a fit spline. Okay, so they put a spline on top of that sketch geometry that already existed. Okay, so that way, they could effectively pick just that portion of that sketch, as a guide curve. So I'm going to go ahead and exit my sketch there, and you can see that as we edit the feature, okay, they use these two curves, or two sketches that we first covered, and then they use that fit spline as the guide curve. Okay, so true to form here, they did the other one, and that one is just an extrusion command, right? A surface extrude, that is. And then we got a surface extrude that goes out the other way. Okay, and those surfaces now create a boundary in which we can use to then do a surface fill. Okay, so if I edit that surface fill command, you can see here that they use tangency along each one of those faces. So they pick their bounding edges, and on the bounding edges they want to stay tangent to the faces that those bounding edges belong to. And that's how you get your design intent, your design criteria. So at the end, you're going to literally delete these blue faces, these blue surfaces. You don't need them whatsoever anymore after you get the file all knitted together. They're literally sacrificial surfaces or faces. Okay. Now, one of the things that you can do in here is, if you notice, there's a little option in the Property Manager called Constraint Curves. Okay, so if you get yourself into a situation where you look at your fill surface and it's not exactly what you want, and you need to add more control to your file, okay, we'll go ahead and close this out. I'm going to roll back before my fill surface, so I'm literally going back in time. And let's say that I need another control curve in here, so I'm going to create myself a plane real quick. Reference plane. I'm going to use that sketch line and say this point right here from another sketch to create myself a plane. Then I'm going to sketch on that plane. And let's say I'll just use my spline command here. And we'll start it up in that corner. We'll come down here to the other corner, hit escape. You can actually draw a 2-point spline, and actually the least amount of spline points that you can put in there, the better, because it gives you better manipulation and control over your spline that way. So let's say that we're just going to angle it up, and we just need it to be a little bit flatter coming through that corner right there. Okay, say about like that. We'll say OK. Come back over here to our exit our sketch. Roll back underneath the fill surface. Edit that feature. And now we can put in a constraint curve. And then the fill surface has to follow then that constraint. Sorry, kind of rotated out of the screen for you there. Then it has to follow that constraint curve. So the constraint curves can give you a way to then, after you get the fill surface in there, a lot of times people are just, they settle for whatever the software gives them. But you can add more control points or more control sketches to get that to look the way you need it to in order to capture your design intent. And that's how you do it after the fill surface has been already created. You roll back, add a constraint curve, and then include it in your fill surface.